Landlords aren't the only players in the real estate game. Do you want real estate in your portfolio without plunging toilets? We've got Tabitha here today, and we're going to talk about different ways that you can invest in real estate. Thanks for being here, Tabitha.
Thanks for having me. So, I guess my first question is, do you need a lot of money to start investing?
I don't think so. I mean, assuming that you already own a home, so you're in your primary residence, I think it could be possible to get into some real estate investing for maybe as little as 5 grand. I know of a project that they were looking for a minimum buy-in of 20 to 25 grand. So it could be more about who you know than how much money you need. Like, for example, you might find a hard money lender who's willing to lend you money for a project and not asking you to put in a ton of your own money. So there's ways to do it, you know. We can get creative.
So, do I have to be a landlord to invest in real estate?
Or there are other ways. Yeah, there's definitely some other ways. So I counted up like maybe 6. So and there could be others.
That's good to know.
But for starters, like, I also just want to throw out the idea that maybe you're a landlord, but you hire a property manager to just deal with all the stuff, right? All the midnight toilet phone calls.
Exactly.
So landlording doesn't have to be a lot of work or a lot of time or the late night phone calls. So you could hire a property manager for that. Um, there's another thing. There's this thing called REITs, or I call them REITs. It's REIT, and it's a real estate investment trust. Have you ever heard of these before?
I have.
So they're like mutual funds.
Right.
So mutual funds is like one fund with a bunch of stocks, and REITs is like a fund, but it's full of investment properties. So that's another way that you could invest in real estate without, actually being hands-on with property. There's also syndications. So this is a situation where some people have come together and created a syndication, a partnership agreement, and they go in on projects together. And they find a project, and then they go out and they look for investors for their project. And then they have the connections, they have the construction people, the property managers, whoever it is that you need. They do the project, whether it's a flip or maybe flipping a house or maybe even flipping a commercial property or an apartment building. But they're doing all of that. And then at the end, when they cash out of it, then you just get, your initial investment back plus whatever profits you've made on top of it. And really, you didn't do anything but just do the initial investment. So that's a very hands-off type of thing. I know that Nicole Ruth at the Ruth team, she started Terra Investments, I believe, or Terra Investment Fund. And so they have this project up in Estes Park where they bought this apartment building and they are improving like the landscaping and the grounds. And as renters move out, they go in, they update the property. Maybe they put in new kitchens and bathrooms or whatever. They make it nicer so they can charge more rent for it. And after 5 years of managing it well and upgrading all of the units, as they came up for lease renewal or like needed a new tenant, after 5 years, the idea is the whole property will be worth more. And at that time, they'll sell it and cash out on their investment. So the investors that put in, 20,000 or 50,000, I mean, they should be making back at least 5 times on that. And honestly, that's more than you would make if you just had one single family property appreciating year to year. So that, what else? House hacking, which is co-buying or multi-generational living situations. Of course, fix and flips, right? The almighty fix and flip. And an Airbnb arbitrage.
Okay, what is arbitrage?
I know. I did the same thing when I heard about it. I was like, Arba, what?
Yeah.
What? I'm not even sure if it's arbitrage or armitage. I might have it spelled wrong. I don't even know. Okay, this armitage thing is really interesting. This is where you lease out your property and you get somebody else to like Airbnb it. And you can also do this like in apartment buildings. Like you can lease an apartment and then just Airbnb it. Now, you're not building any wealth if
Right.
you're dealing in apartments, but that can be a way to build up cash if you need to build up some cash, like for a down payment or to invest in a real estate project.
Right.
Like you could do that for a year or two and just kind of build up your cash reserves. Yeah,
Interesting.
weird, right?
I did, and then there's even just more options. That's not even like the end of the list, really. That's just
Think so.
some of your options that you know of.
Yeah, it's just stuff that I was thinking of this morning. So there could definitely be other ways to invest in real estate, but even just with that list of,
Definitely.
5 or 6 things. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I've heard that there's creative ways of financing, other than getting a mortgage, but what kind of ways are those?
Okay, so there's several different things that I can think of off the top of my head. First of all, you can, if you have your primary residence already and you have some equity, you could take out a HELOC or a second mortgage and pull money out of your house to invest in more real estate. And in fact, that's kind of the first thing that you do if you are, want to build a little real estate empire and be a landlord and, collect all your properties like you're playing Monopoly. That is often how you might do it, is pull that equity out of your existing house to go buy the next house. Retirement accounts. So if you have a 401k or other types of retirement accounts, you should be able to either borrow or cash out money from your 401k and use it for real estate. Like that's in most of those plans, there's a provision in that plan that tells you, what situations that you can take money out for. And buying a house is one of them. Some people have what they call self-directed retirement accounts. And this is where the money is all, in a tax deferred account, right? But you can touch it. You can direct what you're investing in. So you could pick out whatever stocks that you want, or maybe some REITs or something. But you can also take some of that money and put it into a project, like a syndication project where, like I know this woman, Rachel Kennedy, her and her partners, they will help somebody get money out of their self-directed retirement account. Then Rachel has all the construction people and whatever, like basically to do a fix and flip. So she can take somebody's retirement money, put it into a fix and flip project, do the whole project, and then give them their money back plus the profits at the end. And you might end up making quite a bit more money on that than if you were just leaving it in mutual funds or something like that.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, that was something new I just learned in the last year or two. And the last one that I thought of was hard money lenders. Have you ever heard of this before?
Yeah. No.
It's basically like a person, not a bank, uh, who has cash, like plenty of it, more than I have. And they will loan it out for short periods of time. But of course, it's at a higher interest rate than if you're just getting like a first mortgage with your bank for whatever kind of the interest rate. Like, let's just pretend like interest rates are 7% right now. Well, a hard money lender might give you a bunch of money for like 10 or 15%, but then they want it back in like 3 or 6 months. So this is a way that some people can get into fix and flips. But that's a tough business.
I would think so.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have your contractors lined up and if you don't know what you're doing, like it is just so easy to lose. And and at the end of it, when you're trying to sell it, and get your money back, like a lot of people, I think at that point are in a position where they're just hoping to break even. Like they're not even going to be making any profit by the time they get to the end of that project, just because it's another one of those things. People think it looks easy, and so they wanna try it for fast money, and it can go wrong all kinds of ways.
That just makes me think of, like, a loan shark or something now.
They kind of are, yeah. Hard money lenders are kinda like
Like,
loan
a little
sharks.
scary. Ooh. Okay, so then do you have to own a home to become an investor?
Not necessarily. If you already own a home, then you could take advantage of like a home equity loan, home equity line of credit, a second mortgage, right? If you already own your home. Um, and of course, everyone's in different situations, right? But I would say, like, as a general rule, I would recommend that your first real estate investment be your primary home that you're living in, because you have to most people have to pay to live somewhere. So why wouldn't you just be putting that money that you're going to spend every month, put that money into your own financial asset, into your own pocket? um yeah, I think there's very few reasons that it makes sense to not do that. So yeah, of course, like you could take 25 grand and try to get into your own primary residence, or you could take 25 grand and put it into one of these projects and, wait a few years to get your money back. You could do either one, but still you got to pay for a place to live.
Of course.
No.
Okay, so back to the house hacking. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. This is like a term that's kind of become popular lately. And I think there's several different ways to do it. I think people do it in different ways. Um, but I feel like the basic idea of house hacking is that you're getting a house, you're getting this financial asset, you're going to build your equity, but you're getting other people to help you do it, right? So whether that means that maybe you buy a quadplex or a duplex and you live in one side and you rent out the others. Or maybe you already own your own home and maybe you rent out some rooms or rent out the basement or something like that, right? Then you have your renters helping to pay your mortgage. But this can also look like co-buying. So everybody's always talking about affordability in Colorado. And aside from the coasts, it is, outside of the coasts, it is the most expensive place to live, or for real estate, right? So some people on one income have a really difficult time trying to afford a mortgage and get into a payment that they can afford. And so then the conversation becomes, creative. Well, what can you do instead? And it's two answers. It's you either make more income or you find another person with income and you team up on it, right?
Okay.
And it's kind of the same thing with multi-generational living, putting multi-generations of family together under one roof so that everybody's benefiting from that. But I just want to say that if you are going to be in a situation where you're trying to buy with somebody else and you're both going to be on the deed, I think it's a really smart idea to talk through, what all your contingency plans are if someone wants to move or someone needs to move. And now, what if the one person can't buy out the other person? Now you're forced to sell. I mean, it's essentially the same thing as going through a divorce, honestly. So I think highly recommend that anybody who's thinking about co-buying in that way have an agreement ahead of time, like before you even go to closing, have an agreement about what you're doing with that house, like what you're agreeing to.
Right. In whatever situation. Yeah.
Yeah. But it can be a way to get into real estate. It can be a path to homeownership that wasn't possible to do alone. and it can reduce or eliminate your entire housing payment. It can free up cash for you to do something else with it. Maybe buy more real estate.
That's usually the plan. Maybe. I don't know. Somebody.
Let's all buy more real estate. In whatever way you can, buy more real estate. I'm just kidding. Okay, Tabitha, thank you so much for being with us today. This was a great episode. Nice.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
If you like this content and want to support the channel, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go.